Within a sea of games, story-driven titles need to be bold, unique, and pack an emotional punch. If you want to make an impact, your story needs to hit deep. For me, I think Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, don't even try to argue it's not one of the best story games ever made. But when we're talking about uniqueness, Death Stranding takes the crown in my book. The story is just so well crafted, it feels like you're playing through an actual movie. If you're a fan of cinema, Death Stranding is basically the dream story game for you. Now, I'm going to break down this experience into 3 main areas. We have story, soundtrack/sound design, and gameplay. Each one's going to get a score out of 10, and by the end, I'll give you an overall rating based on my experience after 100% completing the game. Let's dive in. Story. Okay, so Death Stranding is often dismissed as a walking simulator, and honestly that label does a massive disservice to the game's storytelling depth. Sure, you're walking around a lot, hear me out, there is so much more going on. The game is set in a post-apocalyptic world where this bizarre event called the Death Stranding has turned everything upside down. You play as Sam Porter Bridges, voiced by Norman Reedus, best known for his role in The Walking Dead. Now, the cast of this game, it's stacked. The sheer star power makes it feel like a Hollywood production, adding to its cinematic feel. Sam's mission, to reconnect America, literally bridging the gaps in a broken society. At its heart, the game is about connection and the cost of isolation. In a world that's fallen apart, can humanity rebuild itself? There's big questions here, folks. As you progress, more and more mysteries unfold, and the questions begin to pile up. If you're into games or movies that make you think and force yourself to put the pieces together before the end, Death Stranding does exactly that. It's a roller coaster of mind-bending twists and moments that will have you on the edge of your seat. And trust me, when the big twists hit, they hit, even if you guess them. Don't worry though, I'm not going to give you any spoilers here. At the end of the day, the story of Death Stranding is an emotional, complex puzzle that will leave you thinking long after the credits roll, which happened twice for some reason, and they're both unskippable. Like, I understand one time, giving your team credit for the hard work, but twice, come on. Anyway, the story, I'm going to give a solid 9 out of 10. The only thing that holds it back a bit is the pacing, which sometimes can feel a little bit slow, especially at the beginning, but hey, it's definitely worth the ride. Soundtrack/sound design. Now, soundtrack and sound design. This is where Death Stranding absolutely shines, besides the story of course. The music isn't just an addition, it elevates the entire experience. The soundtrack evolves alongside your journey, becoming an emotional guide to your adventure. Ludwig Forsell, the composer, did an incredible job matching the game's somber tone. Seriously, the music feels like it's carrying the weight of the post-apocalyptic world for you. The collaboration with Lowraw is pure gold. They add their own unique touch to the game that is uncomparable. I discovered them through Death Stranding, and honestly, I'm grateful for that. Lowraw's Don't Be So Serious plays during the opening, and it sets the tone perfectly. It's cinematic, atmospheric, and yeah, you're not even walking yet. The sound design is just as important. It's immersive, dynamic, and it shifts as you move through different environments. The game's tension ramps up when danger's around, and you can almost feel the isolation. Some of the cutscenes are straight up movie level quality, and I'm not even mad about it. More cutscenes? Yes please. I'm giving the soundtrack and sound design a 9 out of 10. It's almost perfect, but sometimes the music fades out too soon, especially when you're traveling quickly or the environment interferes. I mean, come on. If you give me a killer soundtrack, let me enjoy it longer. Gameplay. Alright, let's talk gameplay. As mentioned earlier, a lot of people call Death Stranding a walking simulator, and yeah, I won't lie, the core loop involves delivering packages from point A to point B. Sounds pretty boring, right? But trust me, it's far from it. The game pushes you to think about every step, from planning your routes, balancing your cargo, navigating tricky terrain. If you're anything like me, you'll probably just end up driving a car everywhere, pushing the limits of the physics. Seriously, snow plus car equals bad decisions. But hey, we all have our own way of tackling it. Mine just got extremely frustrating after a while. For most players, this balance of planning and movement will be the highlight, but yes, the loop can get repetitive, especially if you're aiming for 100% completion. The movement itself, so memorable. You gotta balance your weight or risk falling flat on your face. There's something oddly satisfying about it. And let's talk about the social strand system. This feature lets you build structures that other players can use in their own worlds. The highlight for me, the highway. Do yourself a favor, build it. It's a game changer, especially if you're going for that 100%. I took way too long to build it, constantly making excuses to myself, eventually building it once my playthrough was almost done. Do not be me. Now, the combat, it's fine, it's not bad, but it's not great either. There are other games with more polished combat systems. Death Stranding's combat just feels a bit clunky. I did have some fun with it although, once I figured out I could do flying drift kicks. There's potential here, though that's all I'll say about it. One of my favorite parts is the relationship you build with BB, your baby. It's such an emotional layer to the experience that provides some much needed lightheartedness in such a desolate world. For gameplay, I'm gonna end up giving it an 8 out of 10. I thought about giving it an 8.5 or 9, but after completing everything, the repetitive delivery loop just wore me down a bit, especially when compared to something like Cyberpunk's gameplay. Final thoughts. Alright, now let's add it up. Average across all 3 categories, and Death Stranding gets a solid 8.7 out of 10. The story and sound are fantastic, but the gameplay does hold it back a bit, especially when you're grinding for that 100%. It's definitely not a perfect game, but it's so unique and emotional, and that's why I think it's the most underrated story-driven game out there. Keep in mind, underrated in the sense that if someone hasn't played the game, they believe it to be nothing but a walking simulator. So yeah, don't just call it a walking simulator. That is a massive understatement. If you're into thought-provoking stories and want something completely out of left field, give this one a shot. I'll catch you in the next review. Be there.